Hello and welcome to another episode of Trending Echoes. My name is Rahaf Al-Khazraji and I'm going to be your host for today. Joining us here is Dr. Ralph Thiele, Chairman of the Political Military Society in Germany. Dr. Ralph, it's a pleasure to have you here. We are currently in Frankfurt International Book Fair. It's our fourth time participating in a very prominent book fair. To start, Dr. Ralph, could you help our listeners understand what exactly hybrid threats are and how do they differ from traditional forms of warfare or security challenges?
Hybrid threats actually have been long around. I think they have been formalized, structured around the so-called Arab Spring. It's interesting that the Russian chief of staff, Gerasimov, actually thought that the West was running a hybrid warfare campaign in the Arab Spring and structured and conceptualized how hybrid warfare should work. What does it do? It aims at societies and governments to destabilize them. This is the core thrust. How does it do it? It goes through gray areas that are not well protected. So our borders are well protected, so they don't go through the borders. They go through inner security. Migration is an issue through cyber. So all these kind of things. And what it is a very creative means that takes advantage of innovation. Because today with innovation as a capable cyber warrior, for example, you can sit at the other end of the world and do damage here. And by combining these different technologies and do it through proxies so that you can pretend it is not me, you have a pretty effective way to attack societies and governments. It appears to me this is a new gold standard that is developing.
That's fascinating. Now, let's talk about disruptive innovations, things like AI, biotechnology, or cyber warfare tools. How do these technologies act as key enablers of hybrid threats?
Yeah, we can see that, or better, we cannot see that. That's nature of hybrid threats and digital innovation in particular, because it's happening in a virtual world that you only see if you want to see it or make to see it. So it happens in principle in a kind of dark, and there are plenty of technologies. Actually, I just brought a book here, Hybrid Warfare's Future and Technologies, that I have, which is a result of a studies, of a 2-year studies in the Hybrid Center of Excellence for Hybrid Threats in Helsinki, where with 20 governments of EU and NATO and hundreds of people from prime minister officers, from intelligence agencies, from industry and others, we went through these technologies and we came to 19. So we could have several series of this podcast just to go through the technologies. The most imminent, actually, where Abu Dhabi is a particular well-suited country, is 5G, 6G, means high communication technologies, because when you think 30 years back, you wouldn't need big or huge mainframe computers to do all this kind of calculation, etc., that you can have today in your iPhone. A very mighty tool, and 5G is a kind of backbone where all your knowledge and all your capabilities go through. Artificial intelligence is a kind of new electricity, so a general purpose technology that helps to sort you out all these data and find things. One human being can have 20,000 teammates that help sort out, so you understand how mighty it is. And along with this come all these autonomous systems that we know as drones, for example, but they are also as ships, but they are also as cyber robots. So there's quite a lot. So if you are a bad guy that wants to do harm to others, you can use these communication capabilities, these autonomous systems to harm anybody. And when you look at today, actually, this is even more easy. You can see, for example, Russians or Chinese agencies that just hire people that want to have an adventure and earn a little cash, and you have partners in crime, in terror, whatsoever, that help you doing this. So this is pretty mighty tool.
Okay, that's amazing. So yeah, hybrid threats often blur the lines between war and peace, or between state actors and non-state actors. How does disruptive innovation contribute to this blurring of lines, and how does it make it more challenging to attribute or respond to these threats?
It's kind of difficult always to explain to the public, to people that are to professionals that are very knowledgeable, which are not too many actually, but to these, they know everything. But what you actually have are concepts of information warfare around the world, in China, in Russia, but also in Israel or in the United States or in Great Britain, where you have from disinformation through cyber, through using the electromagnetic spectrum, applying kinetic and non-kinetic threats through these means, combined with classical instruments of power that we are aware of. And so while most of us look just at the classical instruments of power, policemen and their technology, or soldiers and their technology, all these invisible parts that you can use, these are the real impact things. We have seen that actually in a way with a pager attack by Israel these days. And you can imagine every baby phone, every TV, every refrigerator that has an IP address could be used like that. So you imagine immediately what kind of impact you may have.
It's kind of invasive, I'd say, but yeah, could you walk us through a specific case study where disruptive technology has been used in a hybrid threat scenario?
Yeah, actually, I've been sharing conferences already 15, 20 years ago on all these kind of threats, but it didn't become so visible until 2013, actually. This is the time where actually your country, as well as the United States, suddenly in 2013 started investing $5 billion a year in IT, security and technology. What had happened? The Americans got to know that they had South Asian nations, swimming in their intellectual properties relating with armaments, etc. They were afraid. They had some indications that Russians were in the critical infrastructure of the United States, and they felt very, very uncomfortable, thinking that now other players, which are nations, of course, but which are increasingly also not only terrorist organizations, but also individual people that can use data to do harm to nations. And when we think, I find it amazing when you think who could make data actionable against individuals, governments, or companies. You would think that big nations would collect most of the data, like US and China or so. But actually, it's Alibaba and Amazon who own the most data in the world, and actually who use it for micro-targeting. So finding out what your interests are, what your habits are, around shopping, of course. But when you think how terrorism works, how political Islam plays, how autocratic systems sometimes play, then you know that what can be used in a commercial way can also be used in a security-related way. And this really asks for taking action to deal with that.
I think it's tricky in a sense of like, where is it ethical and where is it like not ethical? But looking to the future, what emerging disruptive technologies pose the greatest risk in the context of hybrid threats?
Yes, we have, in principle, one area that is overlooked. I just cannot understand by many, by others not, is space, for example. When you think about hybrid threats, you would think of people around you in your neighborhood that would do something odd or weird. But actually, Space is a force multiplier today, where in principle devices like iPhone, same computer technology, are shot into the space and can use as communicator, also as sensor to help. And with regard to the numbers, we had something like 2,000 to 3,000 satellites in the space for a couple of decades. And now alone Elon Musk is sending up 20,000, 40,000, actually up to 100,000. You have other companies, Amazon, who is doing his OneWeb from the British sides. You have all kinds of others. So we will get a space with many thousands of satellites that are there to enable you real-time, near real-time capacities here on board. So when you look at ISIS, for example, they were building on many of these space-supported communications bought from Turkey or Finland, even Finland brought in to do their bad business. Actually terrorists need safe, secure communications to do their job. Or think of countries like Iran with all the proxies they are engaging in your neighborhood. They need these kind of devices. So space is one thing. AI, as mentioned before, drones. We are in a situation, and this is very weird. When you look at the Ukrainian battlefield, you can see they spend on both sides, Ukraine and Russia, 10,000 drones a day. They are going to 1 million per year. Everything that is learned there can be used also in hybrid functions. Hybrid functions that aim again at your critical infrastructure to produce unrest in your country, to fight against your prosperity, to fight your government. So these are very bad things. And actually, it's hardly to stop. We are just fighting with digital threats. Quantum threats are around the corner. At maybe 5 years or so, we have complete different conversations about new disruptive technologies.
So how can countries and international organizations effectively counter the growing threat of hybrid warfare fueled by disruptive innovation?
In principle, I'm pretty impressed when I go to the Gulf and visit countries and look at their concepts for the future. This is exactly the way how you need to do it. You cannot deal with these threats if you don't have no capability and no ability to judge what's going on. So dealing with these new technologies is a very important thing, and a lot of education is necessary to get the people, in particular the young people, excellently educated, because that helps them to build a situational awareness capacity that helps to understand what's going on. Because today, I have that often here in Germany, it's very difficult even to our secretaries of inner security or so to tell them that. They just look crime. They don't look across the border because this is not their capacity they're there for. So they don't see this interaction from outer security to inner security. They don't have a particular technology affiliation, though they don't see what is coming on with technology things. So in principle, you have to link all this together. To link this together, you must understand what's going on. To understand, you must have an education, and this then needs to build in a situational awareness capacity, a broad, comprehensive, that allows you to understand what kind of threats are coming up. And then you have to fine-tune your tools, because, of course, you have tools, Foreign Office diplomacy, but you also have police and armed forces. And then, of course, you have cyber forces in a country. And all of that, in a way, needs to be working well orchestrated together to be able then to fight these threats. But you can't do that if you don't understand it. So education is really the key.
What do you think, what strategies, technologies or policies can help build resilience to, these
Yes,
threats?
we have, first of all, develop again an attitude. I would speak here more to Europe. I cannot assess it so much to your region, but in principle we need professionals in charge. This is a very important thing. So politics is an own business by itself. You cannot orchestrate all these capabilities if the people that have to do it don't understand very well what's going on. So you need to develop an attitude again that you don't bring good people in a job, but you need to get professionals in a job who understand their business. You have to equip them with money. The problem is with money for governments as for industry, you want to make money. So you don't want to spend money. You want to keep the expenditure small and the profits high. But if you don't invest, you don't get the capabilities, and by the end you lose the money. So having a good feeling for this investment, what and where you should invest is important things, and then have people do it. And here, which is very important, an attitude which we fortunately since a couple of 100 years, I hope we don't lose that, have in Germany, is this ability to let people do their job. Don't give everybody an exact order, because there is no God that knows exactly how you have to build your security system. You always need a company, a team of people that have to develop this concept, and you need these people that do the work actually to contribute what you could do better, how you could do better, and so getting guidance, but broad enough that you have room to move, and give people a kind of liberty to make this happen, to make this real and workable on the ground. I think this is a really approach that you have to do. This is often in Europe difficult because we either don't have technicians who are in charge of these authorities, or we lack money to invest. And so one of the three things you need to understand, have a concept and put money through it. One is always missing, which means in principle there are deficiencies. And what that means is the government and society will suffer because they are not as secure as they should be.
But how can countries and ethics are essential when discussing warfare and counter threats. The use of disruptive technologies and hybrid threats raises significant ethical concerns. So how can we ensure these technologies are used responsibly without violating individual rights?
You're absolutely right. I think this is a very important aspect, and actually I'm missing this in our cultures. Let me put it this way, we have in this world different cultures, and when I look back, centuries back, we would have a lot of philosophers that would have draw a picture how mankind should operate with its environment, including its technology. When you actually look, what are the names of big minds that build a kind of frame how virtual reality, disruptive technologies, and people work together in an ethical format, you don't find much. You find aspects of it, but not much. So I think it's a real challenge for all cultures to come forward, look at their ethical foundations, and develop thought how the future that will be much more technological, directed, guided as in the past, how this makes living worthwhile and ethical as we aim to. I think this is a real pressing issue because you cannot build security systems without an ethical foundation. You need to have a framework in what kind of ethical framework you want to provide security, but we don't do that yet. I don't see that anywhere. So if I go look to the US or to Asia, also if I look to the Gulf, although I see here, which I think is very important, a tendency to elevate your culture and bring that more to the foreground. But if you would, in a self-critical format, now look how many of these people that are doing that have dealt with the issue of technology and your culture, you won't find too many. And the same is true in Europe, in the West, if I say it like that. There's a lot of concern about what we're doing wrong, but there is not a really concept how we should do it right. Very important.
Can you give us maybe a summary of the books we have here?
Yes.
Yeah, go
Yes. So I mentioned already this hybrid warfare book, which is in principle looking at what means are developing, what technologies are developing, and what kind of actors. So here, what I have done is I've looked particularly at the three front-end actors, which are Russia in a way, because it has a long history in this kind of hybrid warfare, but it didn't have the technology. Today comes the technology with a huge enabler. We also have China, which is becoming world champion. When I look technology-wise, the US are really, what should I say, not convinced that they will make the race in quantum technologies against China. They are struggling to make it in artificial intelligence. There are a couple of technologies like microelectronics, or quantum key distribution, where the Chinese already are way ahead and take leadership. So this is there. And then we have political Islam, in particular. When I look at Iran, you can see the master case in a way, bang for the buck, for little money. With hybrid means how I really can shatter up governments and regions, and we can see that in a way through Houthis and others, how they damage international trade. I have looked particularly, let me put it this way, this book as well. It's a handbook of political Islam in Europe. Here we have looked how one player, the political Islam, i.e. the Muslim Brotherhood in a key performance, is taking on silently through legal means, through other means, to strengthen its position and weaken our governments and societies. And we have looked case by case with the EICTP, which is a Vienna-based research institution. We have looked into all these countries and are now going on to go further into it and also build this kind of situational awareness that I've mentioned before, so that not single people who suffer from political Islam, Muslim Brotherhood in their countries are alone, but you rather have a look how the big reach is, how that develops, and from that then come with counter narratives. How do you deal with that? What kind of technologies do you need to keep them on distance or keep them small? So this is very necessary, I think, these days, and I'm happy with your institute that you are such an engaged actor in this as well.
Obviously, we delved into a critical and evolving topic on hyper threats and how disruptive innovation is reshaping the landscape of modern conflict. In the sense of political Islamist groups, do you think hybrid threats have been used in a sense where they use that to, I guess, expand their influence?
Enormously, actually. So I mentioned this pager issue because this was the first time that people saw what with the technology, what kind of outreach you can have, and forgive me saying so, also what kind of precision. Of course, the pictures on TV were differently, but in principle, this was a communication device for the leadership of Hezbollah. So you precisely could address the leadership of Hezbollah by getting into the value chain. And when you now think of that, value chains are changing these days, going more towards Asia. You must have a look who has its hands on these things, then you see this growing. And what now happens again also with both wars, I think the war, the Russian aggression against Ukraine, as all this trouble and turmoil and fighting around Israel, what you see now is that where no artillery, no bombs are flying, more and more hybrid threats are used to affect through disinformation, through cyber attacks. You could see the Ukraine war actually started with cyber attacks on international satellites that actually would also affect Western European economy. So this is happening and this is forcing, and I'm afraid we are now in front of a steep curve that still is flat, where we now see what's happening. We see burning warehouses, disrupted trains, all kinds of things that are happening now. And this curve will go steep up, and I'm afraid we will have to look at it. But we need not to be worried, because if we develop competence with these new and disruptive technologies, we will be in a better position than those who have aggressions against us. So this is our job now, to look at it and do something about it.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a risk with these, extremely advanced technologies. Would you mind just to summarize, wrap up, maybe if you want to say something to our listeners, just to conclude?
Yeah, so thank you, first of all, for discussing the issue. I think as it is an issue of the gray zone, we don't see it, we don't hear it,
sure.
We don't talk about it, and this is why we don't prepare. So having this splendid opportunity to talk about that in detail is wonderful, and I think all of us should work on ways also to visualize what's going on, so that people can better grasp what's coming on. Because in the end, it's all of us. No? We have to look, are there strange things happening, but then there should be somebody who takes care of it. And we have to build that. And I think there's a good opportunity to do so. So sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rahaf, for this insightful discussion. Obviously, the intersection of disruptive technology and hybrid threats is complex. And it's clear that the risks are evolving rapidly. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, thank you so much, Dr. Rahaf.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to being here, and you can watch this episode on Trending Echoes.